All right, good morning and welcome to you all. We are in session 9 at the moment, and the next session is going to bring the entire syllabus coverage to the end. And thereafter, we'll be left with one more session for the revision. I don't say it is revision, just recap, I would say. So in the 11th session, what do you expect? I mean, what are your expectations towards the end? Orientation to exam is basically what they expect, right? So what do you want me to be ready with? What are your expectations?
Sir, from my perspective is to understand what kind of questions would be up for the examination and how do we answer that in general. So what is the pattern that we follow for every answer?
Okay.
Right from 2 marks, 5 marks, 10 marks, or 20 marks, whatever is the categorization.
Okay. So any other expectations for the last session?
Mainly, sir, two things. That is, one is what Siddharth has rightly mentioned related to the exam. The other is related to the practical usability of the topic, which we can take forward in our job working profile and others.
Okay.
And futuristic approach, how we can keep on learning on the same topic again.
Wonderful. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else?
Probably, sir, you can guide us better how we can apply these principles in our day-to-day working in the environment we are going to, be part of directly or indirectly. And probably your experience is way too much than ours. We're not even having half of the experience that you're having, not even a quarter of it. But still, you can tell us what is your perspective and what do you think, what kind of changes you want this or the upcoming generation to implement towards learning and towards the training part towards the part of training as well, because we only look from the perspective of a trainer. We need to look at from the perspective of a trainee as well. So,
Correct. Yeah.
so probably you can guide us better.
Sure. Yeah. Any others? No, I'm asking for this because I can then tailor the whole thing to, at least if not the whole, the part of your expectations can be met. Yeah. Anyone else wants to ask for anything more so that we can start the session for the day? All right. If nobody else has any other question, then let's start. I think we are going to commence the topic, electronic training and its components. How many of you do not use electronic training? All of you use, right? Now it's like typical in a B school class. If everybody says I'm using it, the faculty will simply say, since all of you know it, there's nothing for me to contribute. Thank you very much. So we can also conclude the class saying that all of you are using it and therefore nothing else for me to add to you.
Nice one, sir. Nice one.
Okay. All right. So since all of you use it, I think the best way to deal with the subject is to contribute, take your contribution rather than trying to give anything from my side. So this is what the syllabus says, and we're going to do half of it today and the remaining half in the next session. That will be completing the whole thing. So what we are going to do today is this much. And okay, now let's ask, what is electronic training? Electronic training, e-training, e-learning, they're all synonymous. So what do you think is electronic training?
Electronic training is what comes to my mind is wherever the technology is being used, where large number of people can be accommodated on the same platform, distance learning can take place, and some of the other advantages are it can also be made into a quiz format, and if required, the person can also make it that the other students or the learners, they can also present by sharing the slide, and we can also make it into a small group like we do it in Zoom. So there are multiple other benefits, and quizzes also can be made, polls can be taken. So on and so forth. There are multiple things related to electronic training.
Okay. Any other perspective?
So, training by means of any electronic channel on any no topic is referred to as electronic training. So it's the convenience of taking or attending training from any part of the world, wherever you are. That is the advantage. I'm just adding to what Jigar has mentioned. So
Absolutely. I think basically in a typical classroom format, the trainee has to come to the trainer. Like all the students have to go to the college. All the trainees have to come to a training center. But fortunately for us, electronic training will help us to take the training to the people or the trainees. I think that's a significant paradigm shift. I was only wondering, Nandan said that he has been traveling so much. How best Nandan can make use of the electronic mode of training delivery and reduce his traveling time and reduce the pressure on him is something that I think he should look at probably.
Sir, I'm okay to do that if my boss allows me to do that. He says physical training is something that you need to be part of. So that's the thing here. So virtually, yes. If something where we cannot reach out or somewhere we don't have that presence, yes, we have to do virtual training. But somehow physical training still leads, because someone you can see, someone you can connect with. People do feel that sometimes we are not able to see the other side of the coin, what kind of emotions or what kind of problems they're coming through. I don't know if sometimes students are coming late, so there could be something happening at the house. So every student, every trainee is different. So this is like we need to also apply somewhat like the emotional intelligence part to it. We also need to be connected with them, not AI only. We need to be real as well. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. I think what you said is absolutely right. Training is also has some emotional component integrated into that. Learning has to be through the connect of emotions. But then of late, the AI, the technology of cameras and the AI is enabling us to even capture the moods of the students in the class, right? I think very soon you will have, I have recently seen a camera, which I believe it costs about 150,000 rupees. And one camera is good enough for a classroom. And that will also tell the trainer about the moods of some students. It captures the moods and then gives you some kind of a feedback, right? So some amount of emotional emotions of the trainees are also being captured. So very soon probably you will have some AI enabled training environment where some of these issues can be addressed. Okay, so that will probably
So just to add, sir, on the same point, we are also using an
Yeah.
app which is called as Avrathon app, wherein we also try to cover not only the text parameters, but also the voice modulation, the pitch, and the eye contact. So these are also some of the facial expressions that are getting captured, and the person is getting a rating based on the AI. So is the text what is supposed to be delivered? Is the text getting delivered? And apart from this, the other three parameters which are getting delivered.
Absolutely.
Facial expression.
While there is no substitute to human face-to-face interaction, definitely. But I think to some extent, the technology is able to bridge the gap. All right. So now let's look at what the definition from the exam perspective is. It's a simple one. What Siddharth said, it is delivery of training through digital resources. It's a simple definition. And the digital resources can be multiple. It can be through computers, laptops, tablets, even mobile phones. But basically what we look for here is an internet connection. I think you should be the learner and the trainer should be connected through internet. That is what we are looking for. And the training is, it's only a mode of delivery. It is not a mode of delivery. So what we are essentially saying is a classroom mode of delivery is being substituted by an electronic mode of delivery. All other things, traditional, whatever is valid for a training program, are equally valid here. There are some factors which will facilitate better learning in the electronic mode. There are some factors which are very, very essential in a physical mode. So therefore, It is not a substitute for the traditional training methods. And hence we talk about the blended mode. Some part on the electronic mode and some part in the physical mode. If you do this, probably you are able to make some optimal cost parameters optimal, right? So traveling, inconvenience, costs, all those things, you can look at it. And as a package, if you're able to reduce the cost and inconvenience and still be able to achieve the effectiveness of learning, then that will be a good blended mode. All right. Now, there are some definitions I think all of us should be aware. I'm not sure how many of you are aware. Maybe, some of you are well-versed. But there is something called self-paced learning. Can you tell me what is self-paced learning?
That is taking the training at the time or convenience that we want. There is no hard and fast rule that I should be completing at this point in time or in this particular gap. So it's the pace that I set for myself and then decide when I want to complete it.
So, which is certainly not possible in a physical mode of delivery, in a traditional mode of delivery. There, a faculty goes or a trainer goes and delivers, and the learner or the trainee doesn't have any control over that. So certainly ET, electronic mode of training, gives you that flexibility of pacing it as per your own requirements, right? That's a positive thing. Then all of you know what is LMS? Learning Management System. What is LMS? And how many of you are using it?
So we are using it internally within the organization. So essentially, LMS allows us to allocate courses, various modules that we create, and depending on how recent or let's say technology-wise, how sophisticated the application is, there could also be an interface where people can also experience what has been added to the LMS. Essentially, LMS was largely used to have the modules in terms of storing it and then allocating it to various participants of that particular course. But these days we do have LXP, something called as LXP, wherein we talk about users experience.
Okay. So essentially it helps you to manage the content, its delivery, and also the administrative part of it. I mean, what is important is it helps you to deal with the whole set of operations related to training. In the physical mode of training, you will not be able to track several things which a machine can do. Here you are able to not only deliver the content, you're also able to measure how much time a trainee is spending on each part of those contents, and then see, probably at a later date, you can even relate to the assessment versus the training time spent on that. So you have an evidence in terms of time versus that is the effort versus the assessment, right? Do you do that? Do you make any analysis of the trainees' time spent on that versus the assessment?
Yes, sir. So
And
every month we capture overall training MIS, and then we try to understand month on month basis what has been the appreciation or let's say decline in terms of the total man hours per employee. And at the same time, we are able to have that flexibility wherein we can capture what are the various training programs. Now the same can be done in Excel, but then in Excel it takes a lot of time. But out here we can have the standard output data in terms of reports. So that's the advantage.
did you find any correlation between the time spent versus the performance improvement?
To some extent, yes, but then largely what happens is there are other training programs which are like awareness based. It might be policy based. It might be process oriented. So if we talk about some flagship programs internally, we are able to correlate with it, but then definitely it won't be on the higher side. Somewhere between 60-70% change one can see it over a period of let's say 3 months time period. So often we keep a track for 3 months time period, and after that, if there is any requirement to let's say the participant needs to undergo a refresher program. So maybe after 5 to 6 months down the line, we again ask the participant to have a refresher course.
Okay, great. So that's the advantage in the LMS. I think you have some control over the trainee, and then you can keep sending the alerts wherever it is required, and keep giving the feedback on a continuous basis how the trainee is faring. I think this is something probably what Nandan was saying and somebody else was sharing earlier. In the education sector, the LMS is not so versatile. I mean, people don't use it so much. Still, people prefer the face-to-face mode. But once you have this LMS interface and you are able to measure the effort versus the performance, probably the results will be much better, is the perspective that I am having. But if Nandan has any other perspective, you can share.
Sir, I agree.
Okay.
That's correct.
That's great. Okay, then we are talking about blended learning. This is something which the government of India, the UGC, is also promoting, and every company also wants it in a blended form. It has got multiple advantages. What do we mean by blended learning or a blended training?
It's a mix of both electronic as well as the physical mode of training.
So how do you actually do that? How do you mix these two?
Many a time blended learning can be used, the blended part, the electronic part is many times used as a refresher toward the training for the physical training which has been done, or they can use it just to clear the concepts post the actual physical training which is done. I think that's the way they do it.
Okay.
So yesterday I was conducting workshop on POSH, and we had participants who were there in the classroom, and at the same time there were people who connected from their respective homes. So we use internally Microsoft Teams. So that is one of the way in which we can have a blended approach. Apart from that, it could also be hosted through, let's say, LXP, or it might be via application. Like, let's say if it's a webinar, then one can also use YouTube or any other facility which is there in the market, wherein they can have the live event coverage for that particular training program.
Okay, now you are bringing a new dimension. I think the concept of blending is getting a little blurred here. What you're saying is you're simultaneously conducting something in person and also being done online.
Virtually, yes,
Virtually, right?
both the things together.
You
It's a
are
different
doing it
perspective
together,
altogether.
therefore you're calling it as blended. Is
Blended.
that what the blended is, or is there any other way of looking at blended?
Sir, can I add?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I think, to my opinion, the blended learning, I can give an example that what we have done in our organization, where we have a portal where the participants gets a physical training for a few hours, and they go into the digital reinforcement period, where they will access to all the course content and the materials and assignments, etc. And they use the portal to access these information to practice and to post assignments, etc. So this is also part of the training. So where it is a physical session plus the online activities, which is through the platform. So
Okay.
the total course duration is both blended together.
Wonderful. Now, Amit, did you see this? Now, what she's saying,
Babita mentioned.
what you've said and what she has said. Blending.
We use that as well, sir. We use that as well.
No, that's fine. Conceptually, what is blended? What you have said, probably, we generally use blended in the organization is used as I'm doing it simultaneously. What you said is dual mode of training simultaneously, that is online plus physical. And what Ma'am Babita is saying is, I do part of it in the class and part of the training virtually. Therefore, I'm blending both the modes. So what is the correct definition of blending?
I think it's a combination of learning through different modes, I feel, right? So what I think Amit mentioned, to me, it is like a hybrid way, what we call as hybrid way of working. It's a hybrid way of learning, both different by, having people in physically as well as online. But I think what I mentioned is the learning of the content is through two different ways. One is in the physical, but the continuation of learning either the pre as well as the post. So probably I feel the content in these different mix of these modes, I think could be a blended learning.
Okay, I think what she said is absolutely right. In blended learning, what you're doing is some percentage of the total training is in physical form, in face-to-face mode, and some part of it is in the virtual form, right? So since you're mixing these two, it's called blended. Now, these terms are a bit, interchangeably people are using, but in technical terms, blending is two forms of training, both together. You deliver and that becomes blending. Now, I have a question here. What kind of areas you go for this blending? How much of physical or face-to-face? How much of that is to be virtual? And for which areas you go for face-to-face and which areas you go for virtual? How do you determine this?
So in our company, what we do is modules, especially let's say if there's an induction module, it
Yeah.
happens across 2 days. Day one, we have the HODs or the top key stakeholders who come and address the employees who join the company. When we talk about company information, the values, history about the company, then there are core modules that we cover internally from HR perspective. So all the HR related aspects, their PMS, how their growth journey would be, trajectory would be. So those things wherein there would be greater impact, it will also add value for the other person to know about the internal stakeholders. Those things we do it in person. The second day, as you were also earlier mentioning about the blended approach, we have pre-recorded modules and we use our internal LMS, our technology that we have. And then on day two, people log in into those portals, they undergo the module, and again, there are inbuilt tests and they undergo those test parameters. And after completion of all the modules, they do get a certificate, which is again sent to their inbox. So this is the approach that we have internally. So wherever there is a least amount of, let's say, expectation in terms of people might not be able to understand the concept, for those things we have utilized the self-paced learning approach. But for other things wherein there might be a greater interaction, we have kept them in classroom kind of an approach.
Okay, good, good. I
So
think
to add on to what Amit has told, so something that require practical exposure for any personnel, that requires somebody to come in person and then take the training. And those that can be heard and then understood can go for an electronic training. So anything which is practical exposure mandate, that requires a blended training approach.
very good, excellent. Anand wants to say something. Where is he? Okay, I think he is probably. Okay, then there are three kinds of knowledge. Yeah, Anand, you want to say something? You want to say something?
Yes, yes.
Please go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Now you are audible. Yeah.
Yes, sir. It depends on what kind of. Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Yes. It depends on the question you asked. I'm just responding to that. It depends on what kind of methods we are using. Like if it is group discussion, then we will be using physical methods, for example. And if it is theoretical method, like giving presentation and theoretical portion we have to cover, so that delivery can be done through online mode and electronic this thing. In that kind of blending, we determine what kind of methods and what kind of mode of delivery. That I wanted to say.
Absolutely
As per
right.
your question.
To an extent, I think what Siddharth and what Amit said is true. And what you have said also is very true. The method also determines which is better suited, whether it is a face-to-face or online. Also, it has some bearing on the kind of method that you're using to deliver your training program. There are three definitions that we want to, I'm sure most of you are aware of this. In some other subject you would have come across. There are three types of knowledge that we deliver. Right now, I just want you to understand these three types: declarative knowledge, procedural knowledge, and strategic knowledge. Are you aware of them? If you are aware, please tell me what they are. If you don't know, then I will explain it. For instance, if it is declarative, which is more about the facts, concepts, and principles, an online mode, virtual mode is good enough. People can learn at their own pace. It doesn't change. It can be a standardized material, which can be pre-recorded, and people can have access to that and they can learn. Right?
It's information. It's information.
It's just information. Absolutely. So likewise, what kind of knowledge you're going to give will also have a bearing on what method is better suited. At the end of the day, organization has got limited resources. Whether you are training organization, a manufacturing, a service function, whatever it is, ultimately our resources are limited, and you are trying to optimize the utilization of resources with the objective of maximizing or optimizing your profit. So if you're going to deal with declarative knowledge and it's going to be used multiple times in the organization or in the training establishment, probably you can develop some modules, record them, and then keep them ready. Whenever the training program commences, trainees can be given access to that. And after a certain time of their learning, you can have a face-to-face interaction where you can clarify some of the doubts that they may have, right? The procedural knowledge is more application-oriented. What kind of procedures are followed? For instance, in an organization, performance management requires certain procedures. So initially, if somebody can go through the performance management related policies and the related guidelines, and subsequently you can, that is an area where you have got huge number of questions from the participants. So therefore, you can have a discussion session face to face. Before the coming for the discussion, they'll have enough knowledge about what happens in the organization. Your job becomes to facilitate the answers for or clarify the questions that they may have. Now, the strategic knowledge is something completely different. Here people have to apply the knowledge that they've gained probably in that other two, basically, and put it into the context of the organization for gaining some advantage in the organization to create some kind of a competitive advantage. So it is more of application, and therefore it has to have some component of physical interaction or the face-to-face interaction among the people. So these are the basic definitions. At the moment, I think let us leave it here. In the few slides later, you will find how this is going to be used in the training program in electronic mode. Am I clear to you?
Yes.
Right. Then I'm sure both these definitions, all of you are aware by now. You should be completely familiar with the definitions. What is synchronous learning and what is asynchronous learning? Are you familiar with these two terms, synchronous learning?
So synchronous is when the trainer is able to sync with the idea of, or maybe the trainees are able to sync with the idea of trainers, and they are coming to a consensus on a particular topic. That is what I understand to be synchronous training. I don't know. Maybe where the trainer is able to interact with trainees and then able to convey a certain message that he wants to or intends to. That is synchronous.
Okay. Anybody else?
I can try. So
Yeah.
actually, I have heard the difference between the asynchronous working and synchronous working from the pandemic time, right? So if I can relate to that, I feel synchronous is basically where you start learning when you're in the online or a physical setup, where you try to get the learnings or knowledge from it. Asynchronous can be, it need not be in the online or offline setup, but you can get the learnings through outside of that setup. It can be through a communication, it can be through an email, it can be through a sharing of content or materials, etc. So I think it's a difference between that is what I can relate to when I compare it with the synchronous and asynchronous working. Because when I say synchronous working is when you go into a meeting and discuss a point. Asynchronous, you can actually always use a team chat message or an email and get the task done. So you need not get into a meeting. So that's the kind of difference I see.
Okay. Anand, please go ahead.
Yes, in my opinion, I'm trying that synchronous training comes when continuous professional development is in the focus, and where a continuity within the context of the role is there, and emphasizing the role in the context and continuous you can say support to the trainee is being given through various types of modes like physical or kind of online discussions and conferences kind of thing. That I'm thinking of synchronous and asynchronous. Yeah.
Okay, great. Sadaf Khan?
Yes, so synchronous learning is happens when instructors and the trainees gather together at one place, maybe a virtual or physical place, and they are interacting in a real time basis. Discussion and brainstorming is happening. Whereas asynchronous learning is something where students are able to assess materials and stuff, but at their own space and interacting over a period of time. So that is asynchronous learning. A constant communication happens in synchronous learning, whereas timely communications happens in asynchronous learning.
Very good. Excellent. Okay, Amit.
So I think the existing session that we are having, wherein you are talking about this particular module, that itself is synchronous learning because all of us are connected at the same time, everybody's aligned at the same time.
Right.
However, let's say you give us some homework wherein all of us we have the flexibility to connect later on, and all of us we are connecting online. You might be there, might not be there. Materials are there. There might also be a virtual approach wherein there is a pre-recorded session kind of a thing. So that essentially would be asynchronous because not everybody is aligned to that same cause at the same time.
Okay, I think we have done enough of discussion now. I think let's get the concept very clear. I think what Sadaf Khan has given is the precise definition for synchronous versus asynchronous. In a synchronous learning, the trainees are able to interact with other trainees and the trainers in an instructional experience in a real time. So it is not only the instructor to the trainees, among the trainees as well, right? So this is precisely what Amit said. What we are having is the synchronous session now. Now, asynchronous is any time, any way of learning where the instructor and the trainees are not connected in real time, but then they will do, the trainees do it on their own pace, and then they can always send messages through various means for getting their doubts clarified. But the trainees together or the trainee and the trainer together will not be available in real time at the same point. That is asynchronous learning. So you can have both synchronous learning and asynchronous learning, but to facilitate asynchronous learning, technology comes to our help, and we can create various modules, put them on a server. The learners can take them at their own pace, and then they can post questions through email, chat, whatever the other mechanisms that we have. And the instructor can also clarify these doubts at his own convenience. It need not be at the same time when the questions are posed to him, so the learning can happen seamlessly. Right? I think these definitions are very important because you are in training profession, and the technical meaning of synchronous learning and asynchronous learning are very important. Effective e-learning courses should include both synchronous as well as asynchronous learning, which means you must have some modules which are there available for the trainee at his own convenience, and you must also have some modules which are together with the trainee. That makes the whole operation much more cost effective and time effective.
Sir, so are these two terms a broader term in which we talk about self-paced learning, we talk about the other means of learning? I understand synchronous and asynchronous to be a broader term which can include all these learnings that we've done till now.
I mean, synchronous learning and asynchronous learning have been there even before. It has nothing to do with the electronic training.
Okay.
So here we are talking, that is why we have used here asynchronous e-learning and synchronous e-learning. So if you are connected right now, this is a synchronous e-learning session where we are all connected face to face. Though physically we are not in one location, but we are all together in a virtual space.
We are able to interact.
We are able to interact. We are able to see each other. We are able to respond in real time.
Sir, can we say we are on the same page in synchronous e-learning?
Synchronous?
We are on the same page like this. We use term, we are on the same page.
Okay, that's a... Okay, we are on the same page, a very colloquially used word. So it is more in usage, but technically what it means is there is an interaction in real time between the trainee and the trainer and among the trainees.
So there need not be any consensus between two.
No. There is nothing like consensus. It
Right.
has nothing to do with the consensus. I know you have used the word consensus.
Yes, I was of that opinion.
I know. But then that has nothing to do. It's a platform where you communicate
Yes.
in real time at this in a given space.
Right. Thank you.
Synchronous learning in real classroom is you all sit together in a training room or a classroom. And asynchronous learning happens in a classroom when you give some assignment or a homework to the student and he goes and works independent of the instructor and comes back and submits to you later on, and you evaluate without the student and then give the feedback. Okay? All right. Babita, madam, you want to say something?
Yeah, I'm just trying to connect the point that we discussed a little while back about the blended learning. So if I see this asynchronous learning, so I think it's quite similar, or is it there is a fine line of differentiation? I just want to have that clarity.
No. I think let's not mix up these two. Blended learning is you as a trainer, you are deciding out of my, let us say, 30 hours of training, how much time I will spend on a face-to-face mode and how much time will be in virtual mode. Right? Now, for example, we have some educational program in our institute where we mandatorily prescribe so many hours or so many days you have to be physically present in the class. The rest of the time you can be online in the class. Right? So if I have 30 sessions or 33 sessions in my program, I am going to prescribe in my teaching requirements that out of that 10 classes you have to be physically present, and the remaining 20 classes you can attend online. That is the mode of delivery that becomes blended. I am blending both physical as well as the virtual mode. Now asynchronous is different. Asynchronous is I can put this, suppose I pre-record this lecture and give all these definitions, and then you are able to access them. You go through them before you come to the class, and then you ask only doubts. I don't have to really explain each one of them. Am I clear?
To put it easy, blended का मतलब होता है दो चीजों को कॉम्बिनेशन करना. तो यहाँ पे असिंक्रोनस और सिंक्रोनस को हम कंबाइन करें, थोड़ा सा ऑनलाइन, थोड़ा सा फेस टू फेस, थोड़ा सा सेल्फ पेस. So any two different strategies combined together is blended learning.
Yeah, but you can have the entire learning process asynchronous also.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
blended
Got
is
it.
combination of synchronous learning and asynchronous learning.
Yes.
See, if you take the distance learning programs, they're all asynchronous. They never had any contact classes, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Suppose you don't
Yeah,
have any
yeah.
contact classes, that becomes a complete asynchronous situation. But in a distance learning program, suppose they say, I'll have 1 week contact classes, rest of it you have to study on your own. It becomes a blended. Even in that also, it is a blended mode. Okay?
Yeah, got it. Thank you, sir.
Right.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
So as you have mentioned in blended learning, you have mentioned that 10 classes will be face-to-face and the other part will be online. They can attend online, right?
Yes.
So on what basis this is decided? Like this percentage, 60% should be face-to-face or 40% should be online?
Okay. I mean, how do you decide is what you're saying, what percent?
Yes.
It depends on the context and the content. It depends on the methodologies that you're using. It depends, if there is some affordability issue, for example, if like I gave you the example of distance learning, if the students have to come to Hyderabad or Delhi or Bombay and they have to stay in a location, there is an affordability component also. How much time and money they can spend in that location, because in a distance learning, you got people from various locations. So if you're asking them to come to a location, they'll have to stay out, there are traveling expenses, there are inconveniences and all. So there are several factors that go into it. And then considering various issues of similar nature, and to make your learning more effective, you need to decide which combination is the best. There is no one size fits all here.
So there is no fixed percentage and it depends on the module.
Absolutely. Supposing you are dealing with a course or a training content which involves a lot of practice, then you will have more physical presence. If it is a lot of learning conceptual things, maybe it may be less of physical presence and more of virtual. So
Okay, thank you, sir.
what kind of skills are you imparting? There's a skill component. Skill component usually requires some kind of a physical presence.
Done. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Right. So these are all, I'm sure most of you are aware of it. So I'll quickly go through them. The advantage of electronic training, what kind of advantage you have? There are three people in a training context, your company, the trainee, and the trainer. All the three have got different kinds of advantages. So these are self-explanatory. I think we'll quickly go through that. And if you have any questions, you ask me. Otherwise, we'll just move on. All right. Right?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay. So, sorry. All right. So from the training developer, you look at more of administrative dimensions. Therefore, some of those administrative things have also come into the advantages. So what are the common disadvantages? Now, let me ask you before I go to the slide, what are the common disadvantages that we all face in an electronic mode of training?
Internet bandwidth or
A lot of cost is involved.
Cost is involved.
Internet connectivity.
Yeah, internet, but technology backup, I know. Every time you start a session on the virtual mode, you have to say that the internet should be stable. I know. Yeah, that's a very important concern all of us have. But I think over the years we are far better off thanks to COVID. Although it has done a lot of damage, but it has also helped us in developing the infrastructure for technology related developments. Absolutely. And then cost
Engagement.
yeah.
So engagement and attention span is less as compared to the classroom session.
No, but that is true even in the classroom session today. To be very honest, let me tell you, I think the attention span in classroom is as bad in physical mode as it is in the virtual mode.
So, but this is worse here because most
Lack
of
of
us
skilled
we are not
manpower.
using much
Yeah,
camera
lack of skill manpower. Yeah.
and in the physical session you can look into everyone and you can grab the attention. Now here, what can you do? Many people do
We are
not switch,
actually not,
are not switching
yeah,
on in.
It's not the
we are not
ego
able to read
One
the
problem.
of the
emotions of people also.
one of the
Cultural gap.
disadvantages is, I think so, the language, because sometimes generally the electronic trainings are in English, but if you go down to tier 2 tier 3 towns, and the language can become a challenge because of the, mostly if it's a self-paced one, because generally the electronic training data or everything is in English. To
So
break
many.
it down to is Hindi or Marathi or other languages can be a challenge.
I agree with you, but I think
Actually, sir, in
yeah.
virtual, we are not able to understand the environment of the trainee in which he is sitting in, which becomes very important. Sometimes he is sitting in a very noisy atmosphere and he is attending the session and you don't know what is happening actually. He just unmutes. You tell him to explain. He unmutes and he is not able to tell anything.
Okay.
So not able to assess what is going on actually.
Okay.
Also, sir, what I feel is,
Valid.
especially when we are having online session like the current one, the ones, I mean, I'm talking about my own experience. If there are people who have connected and if they have turned on their cameras, I feel good to train them. But if people haven't turned on their cameras, I slightly feel off. I don't feel like really being into that session because few people are there on camera, others are not there. We don't even know what people are doing. And often at workplace, what happens is people are taking break, loitering around, and the session is running at the back end. And they might not be there at desk because when you try asking them questions, you don't get the answers from them.
Yeah.
So again, I feel this is the hassle.
Similarly, sir, people attending physical sessions, they are not in the classroom most of the times. They don't know what is happening. This happens in the physical setup as well.
Okay, I think to sum up some of the concerns that you have talked about, one, definitely it requires skilled online trainer. The more skillful the trainer is, I think you will be able to almost achieve the near physical classroom training results. That is number one. Number two, in an online environment, as you said, no, you do not know where a trainee is sitting. So there is a responsibility on the trainee. You don't provide any physical comfort or a physical zone for them. Therefore, the trainee is responsible for making himself present in a room or a place where he can receive the training content. So that is definitely an issue which the trainee has to bother about. Obviously, we cannot take care of it, right? And number three, typically, some of these problems are because we don't adopt to an online learning method. We try to do what we normally do in a physical class in an online environment, and we expect the same results as that of a physical class. I think both are not compatible. The controls in a physical class are different from the controls in an online class. And yeah, language, I would say, I think, ma'am, you said, most of it is in English and all, but that is because the kind of people we are dealing with are mostly English. But a lot of the training content is also being delivered in the non-English format, the other local Indian language format.
So, one response. Sorry, you go ahead, please.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So you are right about that. I'm just talking about most like when it's an instructor led on electronic training, like we are having right now. Yes, the language can be taken care of, but I have seen this challenge mostly in self-paced and technical trainings. Because in the company that I am working, sometimes we get this feedbacks that can the trainer train us in in our local language, or can we get the content in our local language, because we are unable to comprehend what the trainer is saying, or unable to understand some of the technical jargons. So this is one of the challenges that we face, and we get the feedback from our learners. That is the reason that I pointed this out.
No, certainly. The point is well taken. In certain contexts, yes, it can be. Anand, please.
Yeah, the way we are the disadvantage thing that what electronic training has disadvantage is, I see it as a limitation of electronic training, because it is really difficult to create the environment for the trainer the way it happens in physical mode. So this could be the limitation of electronic training, where we are not able to create those discussions or trigger questions, a kind of thing. And one round of question can benefit all the people attending the training. This kind of environment is really difficult in making it happen in virtual mode. So this is the limitation of electronic training, where physical which is different from the physical training, that I see as, yeah.
Okay, I think, over a period of time, you might change your perspective on that, because 3 years ago when the COVID started and we started taking sessions online, I don't think at least even I myself did not have so much of interaction on the online mode. But today I feel near equal amount of physical class interaction. These sessions are no less compared to any physical interaction in the class. So we are literally having 90% of physical interaction here. And the more and more people are participating, more and more exchange is taking place. One issue here in virtual mode is, if somebody wants to express something, they don't have the privacy to express, number one. Number two, from the perspective of the instructor, you cannot reprimand anybody in the online class, right? Because everything is public. There's nothing, you can maintain, it's confidential. So that restriction is there. But then when you're teaching adults, in the organizations, a part of the training programs, I think your classes can be as effective, nearly as effective as the physical classrooms, provided you are able to hone those skills. You have to do that through practice. I think two of you raised your hands. One, I think, is Nandan has raised a hand, and one more was there. Yeah.
Yeah, I have so only the major problems in the e-learning where there is a self-paced training. Okay, so like as an organization, like there are some compliance training or mandate trainings when the new joiner joins and they have to complete. So like what happens in so most of the trainings are they are recorded in a particular LMS, and so when the new joiners actually goes to this training, so they face lots of technical issues while going to that learning courses. And secondly, in the where there is a self-paced recorded training. Okay, so like suppose the learner don't understand one thing, and if there is any doubt, okay, so the learner may have the limited chance sometimes, not like every time, limited chance to ask the doubt or anything else. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Great. Yeah, I think Nandan also wants to add something.
So I was saying, if we have more integrated softwares down the line, which are integrated with the training sessions, probably e-learning or learning through virtual classes will be more better. And obviously, it has a lot of technical aspects attached to it as well. So probably it'll grow. So if we have people or trainees who can simultaneously work on the questionnaire which is given to them while going in the training, while they're sitting in the training virtually, so they have a lot of chances which can improve on the training part as well. So e-learning has a lot of things to cover. This is just initial phase, what I feel as.
Absolutely. I think as we go forward with new technologies coming in, I think e-learning will be really catching up, no doubt about it. And therefore, we all should be prepared for the golden opportunity.
Right, sir.
Yeah. So these are some of the things. I think most of these things we have discussed. Less face-to-face interaction, poor quality of training. The trainer's quality also you really do not know. I mean, for example, you're going to hire somebody for training your people on a virtual mode. You really do not know how they perform. A lot of problem happens because if I'm a good teacher, physically, it is assumed that I can also be equally a good teacher in a virtual mode, which is not necessarily true, right? Technology limitations you mentioned about monitoring of the instructor quality, lack of hands-on learning. Wherever there's a practice, you really can't have it. And these are all things that we have covered. I think MB, I don't know what the full name is, but you can speak. Yeah. Yes, sir. Please go ahead and speak. MB. You can unmute and speak. All right. Okay. We'll move on. Okay. There are some strengths and limitations of electronic training. The costs are a big concern. The scale versus the cost. I think if the scales are large, the cost can get distributed. So there are several costs that are related to purchase of hardware, software, then the how they're going to be amortized in the organization, and how many trainees are there, what is the training development cost, the designing and development team cost, how frequently you're going to use it, repeated use of it. All these factors will determine, but then cost is something that you need to look at. Is a limiting factor in an online training program. Then LMS again, it's a very expensive proposition. There is cost. It's good to handle the training program well, but then you also have to look at the cost of acquiring the LMS. You want to get it licensed from a third party, or you want to buy it for yourself. Again, that is a concern for all of us. But having a good LMS will help you to make your training program more effective. Then cost of materials and the processes, what kind of materials are required, and who's going to invest, how much kind of budget you have, how much of flexibility you have in that. The more the resources, the better can be the training program. So those costs of materials and processes are important. Then the learning objectives, what we spoke about, declarative, procedural, and strategic knowledge. If it is just declarative knowledge, I think the cost of materials will be less, because the instructor will be giving more of the facts and the concepts and the definitions and all that in a video. So the cost will be probably less. But if you want to get into some other aspects of it, the cost may go up. So what would you ideally want to give through your electronic training? If it is conceptually clear, and then you define further into what kind of resources are required, what kind of budgets are required, how much time is required to produce, that will be that. Then you can make a feasibility study in terms of what investment can go on. Physical interaction or physical classes can be done immediately, because you know the place, you know the instructor, you know the people who are going to be participants in that. But online training requires advanced planning. It requires production time, editing time, and all that. Therefore, you need to do much more advanced planning. Then learning process, yes, online training, as a matter of fact, should have better attention, because you can bring in multiples, all the 5 senses you can bring together in an online training as much as in a physical training. In fact, in an online training, you should be able to do it better, because the technology can integrate all the the different aspects of drawing the attention of the training. And therefore, here in online training, the trainee can use multiple times. He can go through multiple examples. He can use his own ways of, because each trainee has got his own way of learning, or his learning style is different. And hence, the learning has to be, can be customized to some extent in an online training. But in a physical training, you cannot do it so much of customization. And hence, online training or electronic mode of training is far better suited to customization and delivery to a particular learning style. And then the learner can have symbolic rehearsal, particularly where there is some destructive testing or a dangerous kind of a testing. More of simulations can be there, and then that will help the learner and the trainer to reinforce and encode those aspects of learning much better. Then behavioral reproduction, yes, in some areas, some aspects, the learning through electronic mode is far better, far more effective than physical training. But then it also depends on the kind of method that you are using. So these are all the strengths and limitations of the electronic training. And I would recommend all of you to read this chapter from Ken Blanchard's textbook. If you have the textbook, please read it from the Ken Blanchard's textbook. He has given a very, very detailed account of it. And among the books that have been recommended to you, I found this book to be most useful for the reading. And this, I'm just giving you a brief. I'm not really going into the details. You must have done some instructional design models. Likewise, even for e-learning, there are some models. These are the models which are for the e-learning, but the course coverage doesn't include them. Therefore, I'm not going into the detail of these 6 models. So those of you who are interested in developing some e-learning modules or e-training modules can always, go through these models and then see what suits your design better, right? Okay, now we come to the next dimension of the electronic training. Electronic training, there are 5 components, and in our course, obviously, the first one is not considered because it's not included, because most of us are aware what is computer-based training, and therefore, rightly, they have not included the detailed version of that. But other 4 are important for us: programmed instruction, interactive multimedia, intelligent tutoring systems, and the virtual reality. I'm sure each one of us have some understanding of it. What is important for us here is to gain the right understanding of it. I think since most of us have got some little bit of exposure to these things, we have a feel of it, but may not exactly be what it is. So the computer-based training is basically training provided in part or whole through the use of computer, and the world has moved past the computer-based training. I think we are now using many other integrating many other modes. Therefore, it has not been covered in detail in the syllabus for us. So we will cover basically two of them, programmed instruction and the interactive multimedia today. And the next class, we will cover the remaining two. So what is programmed instruction? Do you have an idea of what is PI? Anyone?
It's kind of like LMS can be a part of PI.
Books also?
Sorry, MOOCs. Okay.
Books.
Yeah, but what is PA basically? Okay. What you're saying is how they get integrated. We will look at it later on. But conceptually, what is programmed instruction?
So basically, considering the learning that has to be achieved, the learning outcome is broken down into set of instructions, and then probably it is put across to the participants. So one of the things that I think probably would be relevant to this one is something called as micro learning, wherein instead of having a proper session, the end objective of learning, what the participant wants to learn, that can be broken down into simple set of instructions in a graphical way, and the same can be shared with the participant, which the
So we have SOPs normally. So I think these are
which
also
help us to
designed on the
understand in which direction we have to go, where are the restrooms, where other things could be. So I think that could be also one of
Structuring,
we might have.
structuring the entire material into modules, kind of thing. Like the entire one module can be on something, the later part could be covered in different. So it could be structured in a way which is conducive for learners to learn and facilitating that required learning experience. So structuring the whole thing in different modules kind of thing can be said as a program instruction.
Okay, now you are absolutely right. So what we are saying is the content is programmed in smaller chunks, or the bite-sized learning modules, right? So, but then what is the relationship from one to the other? What is the programming part of it here? Has anyone gone through any of these online courses? Either
yes.
Coursera or something like that?
Yes.
So did you find anything related to programmed instruction there?
So it's like lectures to lectures. It is like in the first lecture, a particular set of instructions are there, and in next lectures. So if we look at it as a module, this is somehow related to one from another and another so structure the programming the whole thing, and there are other modes like there could be some lectures, there could be some learning materials kind of thing. So this is the way Coursera also Coursera or other training sites provides these courses.
Are there any questions for each of those?
Yes. That was missing. Yes.
Right.
So at every end of each module, there are some performance analysis, like feedback or so kind of thing. That is also the part of those structure, like modules.
And what happens if you don't do well in those questions?
Yes. That gives us options to go back or give other modes. Like if I'm passing the entire module as the first step, it gives us the next module to enter. Otherwise, it gives another kind of bridging material or something to get on, like to cover all the previous material which we have not done well.
Very good, very good. Okay, I think Madam D'Souza wants to say something.
So I think program instructions is two-way. Like you said in Coursera, there's a systematic format that you need to follow. They can't, like LinkedIn Learning has an option to jump videos, but if you have a programmed course layout, which has periodic testing of the knowledge of what he or she has learned. And then if you certify, you get rewarded with a certificate. Now what we do in our organization is we make the videos interactive. So while the learner is going through the video, we also pop in some hotspot questions. If the person fails over there, he gets to look at the video entirely to understand the learns. So that's a program which we have built in to ensure that the learners are totally engaged with the content. And towards the end, my intention or my motive is served of ensuring that the learners get the necessary learns.
Okay, good. I think excellent. I think both of you have given very good perspective about what is programmed instruction. Basically, it is small chunks of input given to the trainee. And at the end of that input, which is given in multiple forms, the trainee is given some questions. And based on how the questions are answered, the computer decides, the program decides whether you are good enough for moving to the next module. If you are not good enough, then the system will tell you what more has to be done. Maybe along with the feedback, the additional material is given, or you're asked to repeat the whole thing. So the programmed instructions, it goes in step-by-step approach where the trainee will learn and he or she will be tested at the end of each chunk of this knowledge. And only when you are able to produce satisfactory responses, you are given the next set of instructions. And this programming has to be done in such a way that the trainee also should feel confident that I'm able to crack it, I'm able to do it, I'm able to perform. So you cannot have questions which will be so tough, the trainee will get disappointed about his own performance and then say, I'll give it up. I think the designing of the programmed instruction has to be done in so finely that I get the satisfaction of learning, but I will not be able to move forward unless I meet certain basic standards criteria, and you move one step to the other step. So as mentioned earlier, this particular module uses text, graphics, and multimedia elements as it is mentioned here, and therefore you make it more interactive, make it more interesting, and hence this can be a well-designed programming instruction can be a far more engaging exercise for a student or a trainee than a physical face-to-face class where you may not be able to integrate all these three roles into one classroom. So using basic any electronic mode of training, but it also has certain limitations sometimes. But what are the basic characteristics that a good programmed instruction method should follow? So you must make the learners or the trainees engaged, active. It cannot be passive, and therefore, like Madam D'Souza said, there must be some pop-ups, some creative stuff which will keep you asking questions, maybe some puzzles, quizzes, whatever, and then they keep you engaged. And if you make a mistake, you should get this feedback on the spot. It cannot be later on, which may not be possible even in a physical classroom, but here the technology enables us to do that. Then you must move from one step to the other gradually, and you should feel that you're progressing. No, you should not feel that you are stuck. So the designing aspect comes there, and that is the quality of the instructional designer that you should have. And it is self-paced. It should give you the kind of flexibility that you want to do at your convenience. And then the learner verification, the purpose of the program is to allow the trainee to learn effectively and efficiently, and learners should be able to evaluate themselves. So at each stage, you look at your own performance, and then it should be positively reinforcing you. I think that is what is important. You go to the Skinner's theory that each time, the moment you do something, you feel more motivated. The learner should be feeling motivated, right? Okay.
It is similar to this program that we are doing, ISTD. It is like broken down into chunks and giving a feedback test, exam, and
No, that way.
much smaller version.
Entire education is like that. For example, since most of you may be aware of management program, I would say management MBA degree for that matter is not marketing, finance, HR, operation. They're not separate. It is all management is one discipline, but they're all broken into various functions to make it. They're all different. Functions are different chunks, and within each function, again, you've got different subjects. Within each subject, you've got different chapters. These are all the logically connected so that we are able to facilitate learning. But then that doesn't work in the online environment. Online environment, as I think somebody said earlier, the attention span is very small. Therefore, you must not exceed. You cannot have a lengthy online session. Very, very difficult. You must have different breaks, different methods, different ways of engaging, and then making the trainee assess himself whether he is learning. In a physical class, as most of you have said, looking at the face of the learner or the trainee, you will be able to make an assessment of how good he is or how attentive he is. But in an online environment, for example, out of 20 or so, only 4 or 5 are physically showing their cameras. Others we don't even know. Therefore, the online learning environment, the chunks are much different. The designing of the chunks are much different. It's a maybe 3-minute, 4-minute, some reading material, some quiz, some video. So the combination of all this, how effectively you are able to use and make the student feel that he is engaged, is very, very important, right? So there are some points which help you to effectively use the programmed instruction. So these are all self-explanatory. I don't think we need to spend much time on that. We have very limited time now, another 10 minutes. So we'll finish off the interactive multimedia. I'm sure, again, interactive multimedia, most of you are aware. As the title itself says, it uses text, videos, graphics, photos, animation, and sound to produce a complex training environment. It is, you are literally producing a movie within the class. So you should be a good director, actor, a good technologist, everything rolled into one, and you must be able to understand the impact of each of these combinations. Which combination will work better for which kind of content is something that you need to very well understand. And as we all know, the PI, the program instruction, is the basis for anything. Ultimately, no, so some of you must have gone through the CAT or GMAT kind of exams. What do? As you keep on answering the questions, the more and more success rate you have in your answers, the tougher the question paper gets. The next question will be a little more tougher than the previous question, right? That is how the programming is done there. They increase the rigor of the question depending on what is your success rate for the previous questions. Same way in programmed instruction, you do the same. As the trainee is able to absorb the content faster and respond rightly to the quizzes that are there embedded in the delivery system, the rigor of the content goes up, the speed of the content goes up. Similar features are there even in the multimedia interactive multimedia system. Here you have a more, the experiential learning is far better designed in the interactive multimedia compared to the previous one. Now, who uses this and how is it used? Just give me a 1-minute break. I'll just join you 1 minute.
क्या स्पेशल बना है?
People in South eat it less, but in North we eat it very much. Rajma chawal.
Rajma chawal, बढ़िया है.
Nandan, you're shining today. What's special today?
जल्दी उठ गया था सुबह, दैट्स इट।
नहीं
नथिंग
मुझे
एक्सेप्शनल,
मुझे
5
लग,
बजे उठ गया था।
नहीं मुझे लग रहा है 2 घंटे का जिम होके आके तगड़ा बैठे हुए हो।
जिम कहाँ मौका मिल रहा है, घर में सेल्फ एक्सरसाइज।
All right, I think
Sir, join back in.
we must have a 5-minute break in all the sessions so that you can have some freewheeling discussion, right? All right, I think coming back, interactive multimedia training, I think a lot of service industries use. I'm sure some of you are already using in your companies. If any one of you are using, you can share your experience. Is anyone using? Is anyone from ADP here? Or anyone in the business of handling the outsourced tax returns for the US, Australia, somebody? Okay, for example,
Sir, we have something called as interactive training module.
Okay.
Whereas, it will show you that you have, it has different headings. So once you click on one heading, the particulars of that heading will open up in the next page.
Okay.
It will have photos, it will have videos. See, for to give an example, if I say one product,
Okay.
say any one product. So say fridge. So opening will be a fridge. Then
Okay.
when I click on that fridge, then it will show different components, how it is repaired, how it is installed, everything.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. Okay. Great. I think that would give you some kind of an idea. This can be used. I know there are some companies like ADP, for example, they use they file the tax returns for various other countries. They get it outsourced to India, right? Because we are fairly cheaper in terms of the labor costs. And I know these guys, they take a lot of undergraduate students for their internship, and then they train them for about a couple of days or a week or so, and then they are on to the job. And for 3 months, they do the filing. It's virtually no cost work for them. And how do they train? The best way is to use interactive multimedia training module, where they will not only get the regulations of the country for which they're going to work, whether it is US or Canada or Australia, whatever, and they will also be doing some exercises there. They will get the feedback on the correctness of their learning, and which will be moderated by some supervisor. So interactive multimedia is a pretty effective way of getting things done. And as Mr. Raj said, it can be in manufacturing, it can be in servicing, it can be in various other forms where the people have to be trained quickly for a very, very focused activity. And you have got effective training material. This works fantastically well. And the examples that you want to learn, I would again recommend you. These are the examples that are mentioned in the textbook of Ken Blanchard. Please read them. You will get to know more details about how that is being used. Okay. And again, to be effective, you must see, one of the points that I would go on and re-emphasizing is in electronic mode of training, you can accommodate more learning styles than what a physical classroom or a physical training room can accommodate. As an individual, I cannot cater to multiple learning styles within a limited period in a physical mode of training. Whereas in the online training or the electronic mode of training, whether it's synchronous or asynchronous, you should be able to make use of multiple learning styles, and that can be tailored to the kind of questions people are answering. It can take you to different modules. The modules can be tailored to your learning style. So it need not necessarily be the same content for each one. The way you are answering, the system can understand what kind of a learning style you have, and then customize your content to accommodate that. I think that is a very, very very, very important feature that electronic training can have. And that completes the interactive multimedia component. And in the next session, we will be dealing with intelligent tutoring system, virtual reality, e-training delivery systems. LMS, we'll go a little more deeper. Today, we have understood what it is, but then we'll go a little more deeper. And then how do you actually convert some of the current traditional training methods or content into electronic training programs. I think that is what we will do, and then we will complete the syllabus for the course. Yeah, are there any questions related to ET, electronic training? We just have another 2 minutes, 2 or 3 minutes. It's okay, no problem. Any questions, any doubts? I hope you're
Sir,
able.
I had one related to the pricing that we spoke about. Online, what I felt was it was more related to be economical as term to be the practical when we take on a group in real life.
Okay, it depends on several factors. One factor is size. How large is the group that you're going to use? Number one. Number two, frequency of use. How many times you're going to use it in a period of time? Number three, how stable the content is. The content has to be kept on changing frequently. Every time you have to invest in the production of that material. That is number three. Number four, the quality at which you want to produce. Here, the technology, you have different levels of production. Unlike a physical classroom or a physical training room where everything is set up once and you don't have to keep on changing, right? So the technology keeps on changing, the features keeps on changing, new facilities keep on coming. How frequently you want to change it is also a matter of concern. See, for instance, we talked about Coursera. Coursera is basically a MOOCs platform on which you get delivered several thousands of courses up there. You know, one of the factors that the Coursera is worried about is after so many years of existence with top class, world class business or the education institutions, they're still financially not viable.
Oh,
right? That's why they tried and they thought, you know, at one point in time when they started, they said we will offer everything free of charge, and then they expected several millions of people to come and latch onto that, and then they thought that even with a marginal amount of charge, they'll be able to make into billions of business. But unfortunately, that did not happen. And they were disillusioned, and therefore they have started now coming into Coursera for campus. They are now thinking that it is the way to go forward is to have a link with the campus, right? So technology enabled solutions are not that easy, you know. For example, a course like marketing, I'm just giving an example. Philip Kotler's marketing book has been revised so many times and so many editions are there. Somebody asked Philip Kotler, sir, how frequently do you think a marketing textbook has to be revised? Right? He said it's almost every month it has to be revised because every day there is a development. Right? So how much of these things can you factor into when you make a production of let us say, a marketing related program? 2 months later, there's a new development. Again, you have to go for a fresh production. A lot of technology involved. Again, a lot of costs involved. So there are several factors which are not in favor of the electronic mode of training. For example, but if it is an induction program, for example, in your own organization, there's a fairly stable environment. You can do some part of it in electronic mode, some part can be in, because induction program is not meant for learning alone. It is also for getting familiarized with the people and, you know, various other socialization processes. Okay. So
I was thinking of the transportation and the stay cost and multiple other things. For example, 100 people who come, their traveling costs and stay costs and multiple things.
Yeah, but then if it is only once in a year, maybe that may be a better option than doing it through electronic mode. You know, electronic, but if you've got a multiple locations, multiple programs being repeated several times in a year, perhaps, you know, electronic mode can be more productive. Yeah. Yeah, Amit, you wanted to say something?
So my query is that considering ICD is there, considering the subject is there, although all of us we have been using lot many online platforms and systems, if there is any freeware resource or library or dictionary which ISTD might be having internally, or there are any programs or softwares which ISTD has been using, if those could be shared with all of us, then that would really help us, because apart from what we have been using all this while, there might be other better applications which, let's say, ICD as an entity might be having. So that was just a suggestion and request. If
No, no.
any source list, etc.,
From
would
which
be there.
perspective, from production or utilization, what perspective are you asking?
From utilization perspective, this the current topic that we were discussing about e-learning approach. So
I
I mean,
know.
there is no such thing as best one.
No, no. See, ISTD has got some 45 chapters across the country, and every chapter is doing so much of work in terms of organizing the webinars, conferences, and all. Most of them are recorded. So a couple of years ago, I've told them at the head office level, all of them should be curated and then put under different classifications and make it accessible to everyone, including the diploma students, including the faculty members, all the other members. So much of valuable material is generated. People like TV Rao, Bushrai, so many people. The who's who of Indian training, are taking part in all these activities. But unfortunately, it is not being done. I think your the question is very relevant. Once again, I will write to the concerned people. Let's create value. People should be able to dig out and use it later on.
Agree.
It's not easy to
Because
get these things done every now and then. There is a great class by somebody. I think we must definitely make it available on a public platform, at least for within the ISTD fraternity. I will again write to
right.
them. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Because the other day I was exploring ICD website, and what I felt is the access portals that we have, the data that has been added, that is as old as 2019.
I know.
Now,
I know. I'm a staunch supporter of putting all these things together. Somebody at the head office, curating it under different heads, and then doing some quality control of these videos and all that, and making them available to various stakeholders within the ISTD system. That will add a great value, and I'm 100% in agreement with you. But then that requires, the issue is about the mindset at the head office level. Unfortunately, that has not happened still. I hope people will push this agenda forward. Let's work on that. Yeah.
sure, sir. So what I can further suggest is I can understand that there might be limitations on their part in terms of who might curate those modules or whatever it is. But I'm happy, and I'm sure people from our batch or maybe previous batches also, they might pitch in to do something about it, wherein we can put a proper library portal, etc., that people can access and can leverage the information which is there. So that was just a suggestion.
No, it is something that ISTD can do. It has the resources, and it is only the will that is required, and will comes only when the demand is there.
Thank you so much, sir.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else has any other question? It's a very legitimate point that you made. I'm very happy that you all talked about it. And the faster we do it, it is good. It's a service that we have to we owe it to the fraternity. That's it.
And also somewhere, sir, I mean, with all respect to you and all the other faculties that we have, often what happens is ISTD is looked at as a flagship program in India, especially for trainers.
Yeah.
But so many parameters, so many components are going against the ethos of this very own program that ISTD is trying to publish more and more in the market. So that's what the gap I felt lies in the process. But definitely, I do understand your point also. I mean, do let us know. I also don't mind writing a letter to whoever the people might be. But definitely, I think we can explore, because I'm sure you would have taken so many classes over the years, and
Yes.
so many times you would have talked about many good things. Like last time you showed us that particular video about one of the faculties from, I guess, Cambridge. Now that was there on YouTube. Yeah,
MIT.
yeah.
Yeah.
MIT, sorry. Now we are in a position to go back to that video and keep accessing that video just to understand the entire thing perspective again and again, because it's there on YouTube. So likewise, That was just a suggestion.
No, I fully understand. You see, as the chairman of the ISTD chapter in Hyderabad, I had conducted several programs. That was the time, I thought that so much of value is generated in terms of these programs, and we are not able to leverage, they're all recorded. It's just that somebody has to do a little bit of editing and then put them all in a catalog under different categories. Then that can be very useful. I have done nearly 50 programs in my 2 years of chairmanship in Hyderabad. And I know some of the speakers, we get them with great difficulty, Not everybody is available on a call. Sometimes you have to work for months to get some speakers. And the value they deliver is phenomenal, right? And that has to be used. It has to be used for the betterment of the people, better time to make trainers better.
And sir, it will also definitely create a new revenue stream for ISTD if done properly.
They don't have to be bothered about revenue stream. I think we need not even talk about revenue from those things. I think it should be taken as philanthropy. That's it. I mean, any better trainer prepared for the country is going to be a value for the country. And don't worry about the ISTD part of it. ISTD can survive even without that revenue. But I think the country needs more trainers. Country is in dire need of good trainers.
Well said, sir. Thank you so much.
Right. Yeah. Any other? Okay, then we are done for the day. Thank you so much. You have made the entire class very interactive and very lively. And we will again meet next week. Till then, have a great time.
Thank you so much, sir. Have a nice day.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.
Thank you.